I just wanted to talk quickly about a way of playing minor 2/5s, which I haven't really done much work on myself, and I don't hear mentioned that much, but yet is definitely part of the jazz language. And that's the idea of taking really a major 2/5. So what we'd understand to be major 2/5, so in the key of C, we might take D minor 7th, and then G7, maybe with an added 9th, and resolve them into a minor chord. And this might seem a little strange because, you know, there's not necessarily one, you know, I mean, we tend to think of minor, at least I think of minor 2/5 once having a, you know, a half diminished chord and some kind of flat 9 or altered dominant chord going on there. But actually, we often see this. A really good example would be, so that's the bridge of Invitation, for instance, has that. But there's many examples melodically. One example I was playing around with the other day is from Blues for Alice. So we get, you know, the chord progression Blues for Alice is basically F major, and there's a 2/5-1, the D minor, right? This first bit. We're just going to look at the first bit. So the melody goes. Okay, so that's obvious. That's kind of like, you know, it's a F triad and an A minor triad over F, so kind of suggesting perhaps an F major 7th kind of tonality. That's not the way Barry Harris would look at it, by the way. But then we get. That's interesting because that has the 9th in, the natural 9th. So this kind of, or if we look at it from the point of view of the 2 chord, which is E minor, that's the natural 5th of that chord, right? So we have to think about that in terms of not being a half diminished chord, but actually an E minor 7th, if we were playing an accompaniment for the head. I mean, when we're soloing, we can do what we like, right? But in that situation, we've got to be careful not to clash. And if we play that would clash with that. So, you see it clashes against that chord. And then we get sort of a chromatic enclosure of the 5th of the target chord, D minor. So that kind of suggests more of a, what's that? Yeah, it's flat 9. And flat 9 sound, more of an altered sound going in. So basically, with the 9th, or the sort of natural 5th in the E minor chord, E minor 7th, we get that kind of voice leading overall, and then back into, you know, the straight D minor. Okay, so because of that, we can't necessarily always assume that the 2 chord is going to be half diminished. I know that might seem obvious to many people. Another good example, out of nowhere. Or East of the Sun, West of the Moon. Well, it goes ya da 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 ya ya ba ba da da. So you got that 9th, yeah, maybe a chromatic note there, but okay. And there's quite a few examples of this sort of thing. Now, from the point of view of scale theory, we can basically say, well, that if we go back to the Blues for Alice example, an A9 going to D minor, we could see that as being, you know, maybe Dorian, but because we need the kind of 7th, the major 3rd in that chord, we might want to look at it as being sort of basically D melodic minor, which if we look at that from A modally, that's a Mixolydian flat 6. There you go. And that's actually a move which you'd often get from Bach. Bach would often play the melodic minor sound on the dominant. You know, so whereas we normally think of the harmonic sound there with the flat 9. So that is, you know, within the bounds of like minor key harmony. And you know, we get stuff like you know, you can move between, say, the Dorian again, obviously, use the ninth and the flat ninth as being voice leading there. Or, you know, it depends whether you're looking at it from the point of view of the 2 chord or the 5 chord. I tend to look at everything from the point of view of the 5 chord because of the influence of Barry Harris. So I tend to do that. But the point is I mean, Barry Harris actually has an 8-note scale which has both those options in. So, you know, that, so we can do it. So we can use both those sounds together, which is really, really handy for playing minor lines. However, that's all very neat. So melodic minor, Barry Harris minor 6th diminished, whatever. But it's not always that simple. If we go back to our invitation example, we get... So what is that? Well, that is actually a minor 9th chord on 2. Which gives you, unambiguously, the major third of the key, right? And there's actually quite a well-known example of this, which is if you listen to, I'm going to not play exactly the same chords, but if you listen to the Bill Evans version of Beautiful Love, he plays this kind of chord, which is a half-diminished chord, but with this note in here, which is the natural second. So that is the origin, for people who think this way, of this sort of Locrian natural 2 scale. So that'd be, what would that be? This kind of thing, right? Sorry, you have to bear with me, my brain is not the most functional. It's this scale, isn't it? You can also find that note in the, again, in the Barry Harris major 6th diminished scale, but not the minor, interestingly. So that's quite an interesting note. And then we go, you know, that's kind of a Bill Evansy way of doing a 2-5-1. So we've got this kind of major third of the key going into minor at the end. You know, there's variations of that. You can things like this, which I think was a kind of a McCoy Tyner-ish sort of thing. So. So this kind of sound can't be explained by using the... you just can't look at it from the point of view of thinking, oh, that's a melodic minor, you know, because it's not. It's definitely going from major to minor. In this case, you know, thinking about it, it would be a natural 2. But, you know, if it was a natural 5th, which does happen, like on this tune, that is definitely thinking like we're going from that major key to sort of dominant chord. If I play with the 9th. So definitely going from, like, in that case, B major to B minor, if that makes any sense, or E mixolydian to B minor. And this is interesting, because it's not something that gets talked about that often, but it actually happens quite a lot. Another good example would be what Charlie Christian plays on the A7 on the first A section of his solo of I Found a New Baby. This is at the end, just as it turns around in the end. So we've had this chord progression. Yeah. There he goes. Plays that. And that is, depending how you look at it, either a E minor 6 arpeggio. A lot of people look at that as being a A13. But either way you look at it, it contains the F sharp, which is actually the major third again, going into the minor, right? So this is, you know, really it's kind of that, you know, I mean, if I play, you know, again, it's that major sound, or the major 2 chord going into the minor. So this is something I think it's kind of worth sort of pointing out and practicing, because it does seem to be a thing. If you listen to McCoy Tyner, for instance, he'll play like major chords in his two chords. He'll play major notes, sorry, in his two chords. And there's a phrase by Coleman Hawkins that I'm looking at, which is on Milestones. Sorry, not Coleman Hawkins, blah, blah, blah. Cannonball Adderley, slightly different. And he ends up, I mean, it's kind of thinking of the phrase as, being kind of like... It's kind of thinking of that phrase as being sort of D7-ish, A minor D7-ish. He ends up on the B, but the song is in a G minor sort of Dorian mode. So... so again, this kind of major minor duality. Now, we're always told that the major third in the minor key can sound bad, and certainly can if it resolves to G minor. But if actually it can be set up as a tension. In fact, there's a video where Pat Metheny is teaching a student. He says like the one sound he can't hear is the major third on the minor chord, if I remember correctly. But actually, that sound. We're going, oh, you again. There's no reason why we can't. I think it sounds really good. So, I mean, that is a sound that we can now play with. And that's great, because for me, I can hear like Metheny. I can hear all the other notes over the chords, and I can hear how they resolve. But I kind of live in fear of playing a major third on a minor chord. But actually, it's good to know. It's just a way of it's just a tension that can resolve. It's effectively like a dominant D sort of note on that chord. Anyway, I hope you found that interesting. Please leave your comments below. A bit of a vlog, I guess, because it sort of relates to things I'm practicing, but it's something which I've noticed a few times in stuff I've transcribed and worked on, but haven't really myself practiced it for my own improvisation. So this is another colour. Oh, by the way, obviously if you're comping for somebody as well, this sort of underlines the reason why you should really, if you're playing blues for Alice, it's good to like leave the fifths out of the chord a lot of the time, because again, sorry, that should be double seventh. And that kind of stuff. Because like if you kind of have too much going on, then you could have a clash. I mean, there are some notes that are safe, but this is not necessarily a safe note. That isn't a safe note. I mean, another example, Autumn Leaves. So if we go to the phrase that happens on this progression, which is the 2-5, minor 2-5 going into A minor. You've got to be really careful not to play a minor 7 flat 5 chord there. Ya ba ba ba. We can't go ba 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 ba, because that will ba ba ba. So do we ba 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 ba. We'll do it. Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, it's like you just got to be careful of those notes, and it's detail work really. It's like just sort of listening carefully to the melody and understanding how it relates to the underlying chords. Again, a lot of these old tunes are written using the conventions of almost classical melody writing. So like they'll use like melodic minors ascending, but natural minors descending and stuff, and the chords reflect that. So it's kind of closer to the world of Bach in some ways than to kind of modern jazz harmonies, all this stuff. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you found it interesting, and as I say, leave comments below. Bye.